So actually, so let me start. I enjoyed this movie.
Sure.
All the acting was fine. I didn't have a problem with any of the actors, which some of these older movies, they can be a little distracting.
All the main players are fine. Peter Cushing, solid performer, as always.
Even Christopher Lee in those flashbacks, he's really good. But the sets were all fantastic.
Yes.
All the Egypt sets. I've never been to Egypt, but I'm going to assume they don't exactly look like that. But
well, there's, as I think I joked
enough
in the commentary track, there's no McDonald's, in this tomb. When if you're making it look like real Egypt, it's just going to be trash on the ground everywhere.
But Patrick, what did you think about this fantastic, fun movie?
Well, don't speak for me. I do enjoy the movie quite a bit. I think I kind of mentioned the issues I have with it towards the end, where we have that lengthy flashback, which comes a little bit too late in the movie, I think. I think we would have... I know what's going on in the story because I've seen mummy movies before, but I think in terms of just storytelling, I think the exposition really needs to come a little earlier. Peter Cushing's awesome. Pretty convincing limp, I will say. If we're talking about his physical acting, which is not something I normally bring up with Peter Cushing. Christopher Lee... Not my favorite mummy, but an intimidating presence. Mainly his size. I think you see a little bit too much of his eyes. I wish they did something a little bit, because whenever they did the facial close-ups, his eyes move a lot. He shifts them around a lot.
Yeah, he's a shifty mummy.
Yeah, I would have liked maybe a gross kind of contact look on him, which I don't know if they really did that in the 50s. But I like the movie. The last 15 minutes or so... Well, honestly, the climax, the last 10, 15 minutes or so, is exciting. But even going back to the scene preceding that, I've mentioned a number of times my favorite scene of the movie. So I'll say the last half hour or so is riveting. I loved all that stuff. So even if it kind of took us a while to get there and it wasn't the most satisfying ride, all makes it worth it in the end. I do enjoy the movie quite a bit. Might even prefer it to the 32 Mummy. I'd have to see that movie again. It's got the same general plot, but it's very different because the mummy is wandering around. I'm going to correct myself. I don't remember what the cool dude's name is in the 99 Mummy. Ardith Bey. It might be that guy's name, but Ardith Bey is the name that Imhotep goes by when he's a human in the 1932 Mummy. I just realized that. So yeah, you got Boris Karloff wandering around doing things, and Boris Karloff as the mummy in the 1932 version, I think he's more probably similar to Mehmet Bey, even though he has that initial appearance the traditional cloth-bound mummy, the Christopher Lee type thing. But
gotcha.
But yeah, I might prefer this one. This is a very good one. This is one of the better Hammer horror films from the late 50s into they had a great run from 57 or so into about 74, 73.
Well, I can say as my first Hammer horror film, I enjoyed it.
I'm going to correct you there.
Oh no.
You weren't a part of this episode, but the Quatermass Experiment is a Hammer film, and you have seen that.
I have.
I did a little bit of research on this at some point a while ago. I think Hammer kind of started as sort of B movies. They made a few science fiction movies, Quatermass, and maybe something else around the time, and that kind of got them a lot of money. And then it was really 57 is when they went all in on gothic horror, and that's what really kind of launched them into a main British studio. Possibly a little, I say main, probably a little bit of a cult appeal, just because horror. But, they got, those movies at least got international distribution. I think this one had Warner Brothers. A lot of them had Universal. Universal owns the rights to a lot of those movies, too, I think, because they're so closely related with the Universal monsters, because they're essentially remakes. I know the Hammer Frankenstein movies, it's unlike the Universal series where it's a different monster every movie because it follows the scientist, the Dr. Frankenstein. They never quite recreate the classic Boris Karloff monster look, and it's because they didn't have the rights to that, makeup or something. So even though those movies are great, all the monsters fucking suck. They all look terrible if you ask me. but that's a movie. Peter Cushing is the real monster in those movies, though, which is what makes him amazing. But